Welcome to iBidder's workshop on rethinking asset recovery. Hope everyone's enjoying the expo up to this point and seeing some innovation and different kind of views and opinions on e-commerce. We at iBidder and ATG also are using technology to approach an age-old or a traditional method of asset disposition. So hopefully you'll get some good insights into what is commonly a grey area for most manufacturers and retailers. So without further ado, we'll discuss the asset recovery for surplus and obsolete stock. Why does it matter to you, the manufacturer and the retailer? What currently happens within your organizations? Why sometimes it's not the best thing to do and it doesn't bring benefit to your organization, and what we do differently and how we do differently. So without further ado, a little bit about us as an organization. ATG is otherwise known as Auction Technology Group. We've been around for 47 years. So some of the stats on the right-hand side of the screen just give you a bit of understanding of the size of the organisation. So last year we transacted £2 billion worth of sales across all our portals. We have a global reach, so we have offices in London, we have offices in Seattle, and most recently we have an office in Hamburg. We're an award-winning tech organisation. So even with the 47 years worth of experience under our belts, we're continually learning and continually trying to strive to harness our technology to help customers with the asset recovery flow. So a little bit about myself. My name's Tien. I came into iBidder, joined iBidder last year with a clear focus on consumer goods and utilising the technology that ATG have obviously perfected to help with the reverse flow and asset recovery. My background is with manufacturers and retailers, and I've also been the head of recycling for an OEM hardware manufacturer. So I've kind of lived and breathed the asset recovery world for a good few years. I actually started my asset recovery life and reverse logistics life at the front end, working for a major IT distributor. It was actually the largest IT distributor in Europe at the time. And I see a lot of parallels between IT distribution and e-commerce. So back then, it was a buoyant marketplace, a buoyant industry, and with that, there was a lot of competition and a lot of players coming to the marketplace. And what happened was what I would regard as the age of free. So salespeople were selling products, but they were wrapping lots of free services around it. Free configs in IT, free returns and free delivery. And free delivery and free returns is something that's quite commonplace with e-commerce right now, and actually has a big effect on businesses. For everything you're selling out, products come back in, and the cost of those products actually come back out for the bottom line. So it might be free to the customer, but it's not actually free to the organization. And where you can reclaim certain kind of revenue streams is actually quite key. So I developed an interest in asset recovery and understanding of the secondary market. So those products that were coming back in, there was actually a whole new marketplace, a secondary marketplace that was dedicated for that particular stock. That secondary marketplace was completely different from the primary marketplace. Different dynamics, different players in the marketplace, and different rules of engagement, if you like. So really kind of give me an understanding of how important that secondary marketplace when it comes to obsolete or return stock. So just a bit of a kind of light-hearted kind of pop quiz to start off with. Back in 1789, former President of the United States, Benjamin Franklin, wrote in a letter that there were certain certainties in life, certain things that would happen, that would impact us, and what we did to prepare for those things and how we actually dealt with those things when they occurred was actually the most important thing. So can anyone tell me any certainties in life, anything that would come to us regardless of whether or not we like it or not? Death. Perfect. Thank you very much, sir. Death, unfortunately, does come to us all. I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. And the other thing that you mentioned was taxes. Taxes, or the tax man. Obviously, otherwise known as the Grim Reaper. He comes knocking when we're striving or trying to make a better life for ourselves. So those two things, they happen, they impact us, and they're a certainty. But there is one other certainty that does impact us as well. And Benjamin Franklin, if he were around today, probably would be writing it in a letter. And that is customer returns. Customer returns happens as a percentage, big or small. It happens because we're working on percentages. For every product that you sell, there's going to be someone that probably isn't so happy with that product, either buyer's regress or the functionality of that product. So obviously light-hearted, but there is actually a serious kind of message behind this. It will happen, regardless of how well you market your products or you package your products. iBidder obviously is here to show you that there is obviously a solution to that issue. So why is retail returns such a hot topic? Why is it something that you even have to consider as an issue? Because essentially we've created a monster. We as consumers expect more, and when we expect more, free returns is the norm for most individuals. Did you know that 30% of all products that are sold in line actually come back? So that's almost 1 in 3 products that go out the front door, one will come back into your distribution center and will sit there waiting for something to happen to it. There's a couple of other stats that show you exactly how important returns policies is to a consumer. So they consider that returns policy before they've even purchased the product. Maybe that kind of gives you an insight into the intention of that purchase. But what cost is it to you, the manufacturer or the retailer? For manufacturers and retailers, you obviously bear the brunt. Manufacturers are impacted from between 5 and 6% of the revenue that you generate. 5 and 6% of the revenue that you generate goes towards dealing with the cost of the return from a logistics point of view, processing, returns validation, remarketing, repackaging, and reselling that product again. For retailers, it's slightly less. It's 2 to 3% of sales, but still a significant amount if you're talking about the revenue that you're generating. There is a third, just understanding the size of the issue, the size of the problem for e-commerce as we stand here today. It isn't a UK-centric problem. It's actually a global epidemic, the returns process. But last year, e-commerce was worth 133 billion. Customer returns actually cost the UK retailer 20 billion, so it's quite a significant amount. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, or there is an opportunity within all this chaos, and it's in the condition that the product comes back in. So a customer return will come back in, but Accenture conducted a survey, and only 5% of the returns that came back were linked to any manufacturing issues at all. ASOS in 2013 actually identified that there was an issue at hand, and with returns rates growing 30% and plus, they identified that there was an issue. So that what they wanted to do was they wanted to focus on where the issue was, and if they actually look to remedy that situation, actually how much benefit would that be to the organization, what financial benefit would there be to the organization. And they calculated that just a reduction of 1% in returns equated to £10 million worth of revenue back to the bottom line. So £10 million worth of sales or £10 million worth of savings to the organization is still £10 million worth of benefit. So within all the chaos of returns, there's an opportunity for manufacturers and retailers to do something just that little bit better. So where is the opportunity? The opportunity lies in the condition that the product comes back in. So we'd regard returned product as scrap, unwanted. Do you landfill it? Do you scrap it? Do you recycle it? What do you do with it? Here are a couple of 3 percentages that probably give you a little bit of insight on where the opportunity lies. So there is hidden value in the respects of the actual condition of the product. So 68% of product that's coming back through the door will be tested and found to be working. So there's no functional issues with that product at all. 27% will be linked to buyer's remorse. It's just simply the buyer doesn't want that product anymore. They've found it cheaper elsewhere. They've returned the original product. So therefore 5% are actually kind of termed as defective. That can change with different types of products, but still that's quite a small percentage of product that is actually rightfully returned. The bottom line being 95% of products that comes through in your returns policy is actually resellable, and it's all about finding that resale market, that secondary market for that product, so you can generate residual value and mitigate your loss. So what happens to returns? Mostly within organizations, they'll go through 2 different routes. They'll either go back to stock for brand new products, box sealed, obsolete stock, essentially it hasn't sold, or there'll be a quick sale, a sale to a jobber, just get it sold, get some revenue for that product. So drilling down into those 2 particular routes and finding kind of, obviously that sometimes they don't actually offer the benefits that you would assume. For return stock, the cost is high. It's moved from A to B to C, and you have the logistics cost back to A again. So there's lots of hands touching that particular product, lots of costs going on to essentially a return product. When that product is stored, it's actually taking up the space of potentially a product that is a top seller for you. So there's a lost opportunity for you there as well. and the resources that go towards this. So we're talking about DCs or third-party logistics. They're not cheap services. They're not cheap facilities to run. So the sale of your product, the revenue that's generated for that product goes towards covering those costs. But if those products aren't selling, they're not contributing to those costs at all. So you're storing dead or obsolete stock. For the quick sale, if you decide to use a jobber or a trader, it normally is accompanied by a low yield. So just the nature of the beast with a jobber or a trader, they'll want to purchase a product at the lowest price possible. Low yields are normally around the 5% mark, 5% of RRP, so 5 pence in the pound. If that seems quite low, it's because it is. So a product that's worth £1, essentially you're being offered 5 pence for it. The high cost of goods sold, this is quite an interesting one and quite an important one, because the warehouse managers, administration staff, sales staff, they really should be dedicated towards dealing with the operation of the warehouse and selling new products. But when return product comes back in, they're redirected to sell that product and host traders and jobbers on site. Therefore, spending a lot of time for traders to essentially barter with warehouse managers. And if you go back to your organizations and find out that a warehouse manager is actually dealing with the sale of essentially a company's assets, you'd probably be surprised on how often that happens. Essentially, jobbers and traders will look to negotiate the prices down. So they'll turn up on site, they'll kick tires, or in this instance, pallets, to negotiate the best price down. When a warehouse manager is under the kind of pressures of clearing out pallet spaces, making space within their warehouse, 9 times out of 10, they'll take an offer that's probably below the market value, and that's where iBidder can probably help a lot. There is a third route to those two particular routes, return to stock and jobbers, and that's the auction route. And that's something that's growing year on year. For the last 3 years, we've seen a massive uptake in organizations looking to push their product through the auction route. We've been doing it since 2007. So what you see here is a reverse supply chain. This is where iBidder sits. So there's a lot of reverse logistics organizations doing a fantastic job getting it back to your DC, but we sit here specifically focusing on a secondary market, a conduit to that secondary market. We started off as a bricks and mortar facility or tech facility for auction partners to sell their products. We're a tech company after all. In the last 12 months, over £350 million worth of stock has been listed on our platform, our secondary platform. And that shows how we've evolved into a dedicated marketplace. We've become that sort of default go-to for secondary products, both for buyers and for sellers. And we've grown a marketplace, or grown a user base of 2 million plus, and we grow year on year. So how do we do what we do? We bring tech into asset recovery. So you hear a lot of organizations that are helping the e-commerce journey, and the e-commerce journey, fantastic when it happens, and it happens well. But there is an occurrence when customer returns happens. So there'll be a percentage of product that comes back in. Where we work is with re-commerce, shortening that process from when it comes back into the distribution center to getting it back into the marketplace, the secondary marketplace, and reaching those particular buyers. So how we do that, side by side against your current methods, a current method will be fragmented. There won't be a go-to, whether or not it's a return to stock box new and you're looking for the highest price, or you're looking at a open box product, which essentially you'll take a lower price. There's potentially no particular default or no go-to for that. We're a digital marketplace for returns, and we're becoming renowned for that particular marketplace. The manual processes that are involved, that's actually really key, because I used to work for a processor, and we'd process product really well. We'd tick all the compliance boxes, but then we'd have 2 salespeople selling products. We'd have salesperson A, salesperson B, and they'd cut and paste Excel sheets all day long to send products and send prices to particular traders. Really what we do is we have an automated platform. So from listing to advertising to taking payment for products that have sold, it's fully automated. The price is essentially negotiated down. When you're speaking to 5 or 6 buyers, essentially you're at the beck and call of those particular buyers. With an auction platform that attracts hundreds, if not thousands of buyers, we have a competitive marketplace. And through a bidding frenzy, prices are pushed up. So we talked about it theoretically, but there is obviously a side of things that we probably want to detail to you, and that's a case study that we conducted. Okay, a case study that covers our activities with a major OEM player. So their previous solution was they were selling the products. It was pretty good. The brand was pretty good, so they were selling at 15% of RRP. 51% of their product was actually being scrapped. There was high storage costs because returns were being stored in the same place as their new product. And there was non-standard processes. So there was a lot of teams with different objectives, touching and dealing with that product in different ways. And overall, there was no post-sale data. So whatever they sold, whatever activities they were conducting, there wasn't any kind of traction or any sort of kind of audit trail for that type of product. So iBidder came into the scenario. We sat down, we evaluated exactly what they were doing, and the results are as such. The first consignment, the very, very first consignment for a product that we'd never sold before, we achieved 27% of RRP. We did that by leveraging our user base, our marketing, and bringing the right buyers to the scenario. We reduced scrap level because instead of having lots of different teams touch and feel, many hands make light work, but also many hands apply different costs as well. So what we did was we reduced the scrap level by having centralized processing for that type of product, yet leveraging our network of auction partners. The £10,000 per quarter of storage costs was saved because we removed it out of the high value or high priority storage that was being stored in at the time. And the labor costs and the savings, everything became transparent. Certain teams were dedicated to brand new products. Refurbished products or resale second user product was channeled through our secondary platform, and it made everything absolutely transparent. And the quarterly insights, so this was fantastic for senior managers and CFOs to understand exactly what their activities kind of bore. So they understood the cost for logistics and processing in-house, and we gave them a complete and black and white figure on the revenue that was generated, allowing them to see a net return for their return products. So the tools that we used to achieve this for the major OEM was a digital marketplace for returns. It's a marketplace that's a go-to for secondary products. We're growing year on year, and we're reaching and kind of surpassing 2 million users. It's a simple place. It's a simple marketplace to connect buyers and sellers of that particular product. The automated processes that were conducted, we negated all of them. So from listing to selling product and dealing with the payment, we obviously kind of brought a lot of benefits. The digital marketing for returns. We're a tech company, we have a tech platform, and reaching the right users is key. So we actually use a lot of behavior-based marketing and social media to attract that user base. The competitive transparent method of sale. So we're talking about a bidding platform which is fully audited, time-stamped, so it gives a lot of comfort to our buyers and our traders. And a data warehouse. We're a tech company that generates a lot of data, so that data could be used by that particular OEM to understand different disposition routes for the different products. If products were of a certain value, then it would go to a certain route. If products were another value or a higher value, then they would be sold in a certain area or a certain user base. Really, the fundamentals of our system is about cutting costs and driving higher revenue to give you an improved yield on the direct sale or the current disposition that you're undertaking at the moment. So very simply, how to rethink asset recovery. It's a 4-step process, and it is incredibly easy. But doing those easy things right is obviously easier said than done. But the first thing to probably do is go back into the organization and evaluate what you're doing. So there'll be organizations or individuals that are doing things because it's always been done that way. And those are the first challenges that you have to kind of overcome. So the current disposition routes, do they add any value to your product? Are they adding cost onto cost? Automate the process. So there'll be a lot of organizations utilizing the sales team to sell products or warehousing team to sell products. If your warehouse manager is selling products, it's probably something that you would want to revise because essentially they're selling hundreds of thousands worth of assets of the business. They're outdated, and that's something that iBidder can help with. Sell that product, get it sold. Advertise your product on a competitive bidding platform. So instead of speaking to half a dozen bidders, list it on a platform that has 2 million unique users. The more bidders you have, the more interested buyers you have, obviously the price is pushed up and you're generating the highest yield for your product. So to generate a highest yield, it's not just all about selling. So if your warehouse manager has got pressing concerns on clearing stock or clearing pallet spaces, they're probably less likely to have a focus on yield. But yield is really important because not only do you want to sell a product, you want to sell it and mitigate as much of that loss as possible. So thank you very much for joining us today. Obviously, this is hopefully shedding some light on what's normally a grey area for a lot of businesses, returns and obsolete stock, but hopefully we're giving you an indication of where the value lies. If you have any questions, obviously come and grab us. Happy to send the presentation to you. We're demonstrating our products on our website on E42, so obviously please come and join us and ask any questions if you like. Thank you.